Okay. Something was weighing on my mind. So I wanted to get on here and discuss it. I guess it's up to you to decide how heavy the weight is. I was thinking about this, and I'm looking at a piece of paper that I wrote some notes on, so you'll have to excuse me if I look down sometimes. I'm going to discuss how I feel about the Kyrie. I'm going to discuss how I feel about the Kyrie Irving situation. And hopefully I won't take up that much of your time. Because for however much some people would like to analyze a situation until we're blue in the face and all fall to the ground. To me, it's much simpler than people make it appear to be. Now, I am not going to be bringing up Kanye West with this. Because I think, although they are both entertainers of sorts, well, Kyrie's an athlete and Kanye West is a rapper. Behaviors and past statements are different things. I think sometimes tying too many things into an analysis is not the best way to go, especially when sometimes your audience is hell-bent on misunderstanding a situation or hell-bent on, tearing you as the speaker down. I'm not saying people are here to do that. It has happened in the past, though. And I often find it amusing, but a waste of their time and a waste of my time. First, let me start with this, a story from my own life. And I want to say that if you are a person, sorry, my phone's messed up. It is windy out here, very, very windy. Hold on. It's beautiful though, when the leaves start to fall and they get stuck in this whirlwind. And you can see the colors kind of like a kaleidoscope. But anyway, okay. If you are a person that gets triggered by a story of abuse, especially abuse in regards to children, then stop now and don't listen. I'm going to tell a story that I recalled from my own life when I heard about what was going on with this basketball player, Kyrie Irving. And kind of how it helped me analyze the whole situation, which is this. This is a piece of a story. I think I'll circle back around and finish the ending of it later. Probably at the end of this I've told video. You already in a video, I believe. If you go back and look in my videos, I think it was one about Condoleezza Rice and her rhetoric. Okay? In the middle of that someplace, I don't remember the minutes, I discuss my upbringing and how I was in foster care and how I was adopted. But I had lived in a few homes before I was 9 years old, with different people, different races, and cultures. This story is about before I went to go live in a final family, an adopted family. Before I went to go live with my adopted family, I was living back and forth with my mother, often in the foster care system. If the mother indicates, or the father, that they want to keep the child, there are some efforts and conditions that are placed on the parent, and those need to have been met, supposedly, although we see other things in the news now with lots of parents that are killing their own children and they haven't met any conditions. Fall through the cracks and everybody just says, swoopsie, you know? But anyway, this story is about the time when my birth mother, that's how I will refer to her, decided that maybe she would keep me and that she would try to go back and get my brothers. They were living in a boys' home. I was living in a foster care home. She wanted to see if she could do it because she had met a man at a halfway house that she thought she was in love with. Another man. And she put that idea of her love for him before her children. That's my opinion. Although, if I talk to her, which I don't, she would not say it was so. Anyway, I remember on the last day that I lived with her, it was around my birthday. And she didn't recognize my birthday because she didn't do anything to prepare for it. So she was already in a grumpy mood because she didn't want me to call her out about that. And her new husband, which I never called Dad, and even my own birth dad, I've never called Dad. He kind of called her out on it too. About how can you have a daughter and not celebrate her birthday, not even say happy birthday, not get her a card, nothing. So they were at odds with each other. And then he, went to a corner store and bought me, a dollar store toy and gave it to me, and it really had no meaning for me. And I don't know if I told you, I think I was 8 at the time. But anyway, the only thing I wanted to do, since I didn't have any gifts, I wasn't going to get any cake, I wasn't going to get any ice cream, nothing was going to be done, was I had heard through a commercial that Alice in Wonderland, the movie, with the Jabberwocky, was going to be on, and I wanted to watch that. Because I remember seeing the movie at a foster home I lived in. So I asked the man that my mom was married to, that I never really looked at as a stepdad, but I guess he would be called my stepdad. Can I watch Alice in Wonderland? And he said yes. There was only one TV. He said yes. Of course he was going to sit there, I think it was on a weekend, and watch all of his History Channels and read his National Geographics and rant and rave to my mom, who thought he was so intelligent and so clever and so important. But he did promise me, and I think part of it was because he felt bad for me, because they had done nothing to acknowledge that it was my birthday. So the evening comes, and I'm amped up, I'm ready. I say, the movie's coming on in 10 minutes. Something like that. Can I still watch it? And he's like, yeah. This grumbling. And then it got closer, a few more minutes. And a few more minutes. And then he changed his mind. He said, no, you can't watch it. Because he wanted to do what he wanted to do. There was something else he wanted to see. And he was annoyed that I asked a few times. And so he was going to take away this thing from me that I really wanted. Because he could. So I remember I stood there in defiance. This man at the time, oh my gosh, I was 8. I think my mom was about 29, and he was older than her. There were many differences between the two of them that I could always call on if I wanted to. If I wanted to say, oh, it was because he had more money and she had none. It was because he was Polish and she was Puerto Rican. It was because he was very white skin color and my mom was, dark brown. It could be because he was the man, she was the woman. I could say any one of those as a justification to why it all went down like that. But what I remember was it was just because he had the power and he wanted it. And he was not going to be deterred from me. I stood in front of him and I said, "You're a liar." And he looked at me like he couldn't believe that I said that to him. And then I think I said it again. After that, it was all a scuffle. What I remember was that he grabbed me by my shoulders and he brought me into my bedroom and he threw me against the wall. And then I kept getting up. And he kept throwing me against the wall while my mom was in the other room, acting like she didn't hear. She didn't break up anything. She didn't help me. She didn't say that I was right, that he was a hypocrite and he was a liar. She just let it happen. What I remember was he kept picking me up even though he was a little man. I was much smaller than he was, obviously, because I was little. I was a little girl. That he kept picking me up and throwing me against the wall. And telling me, "You don't listen. Stay down. Stay down." And I wouldn't. And the only thing that stopped this situation was the fact that the phone rang. And when the phone rang, it was my foster care dad that I stayed with. And he was calling to say happy birthday. And my birth mom was so worried that I would tell the truth about what was going on in that apartment, that moment, that somehow it would get out. That everything stopped. The stepdad stopped throwing me against the wall, and finally my mom came into the room to tell me that the phone was for me. And my foster care dad could tell that something was wrong. He could tell from my voice, even though I tried not to cry. I just remembered after that I wasn't ever going to be somebody that stood down and let the person that was throwing me against the wall abuse me. I didn't do anything wrong. I pointed out that the person that was wrong should be the one to stand down. But I'll tell you at the end what happened with him. But what does this have to do with Kyrie Irving? the story with him is that he put a tweet out with a link to a movie, I think, called Hebrews to Negroes. And some in the Jewish community said that it was offensive and that he should apologize. And at first he did not apologize. And then he came out and apologized and offered a donation. And that wasn't good enough. What does this have to do with the story that I told you? It has to do with the onlookers. It has to do with the abuser. It has to do with the person that's being victimized. And why? If Kyrie Irving, and it's not even if, he did apologize. He apologized. And then you deem it not acceptable. And then you come back and you say, well, I want a different apology. I want an apology with $500,000. And I want some counseling for him. And I want some re-education. And then you don't do that. You don't ask for those things for other people who have said offensive things to you. Actually said these things about the Jewish community. Actually painted swastika signs. Actually have made fun of your community. Have stereotyped, in many movies, your community. And you haven't gotten that apology from them. And you haven't asked for it. And you haven't sought it out. Then we have to ask, why him? Why is he being treated like this? Why is the punishment that he's been given in excess? What did he do that was so wrong that warrants this reaction, warrants this apology in money? $500,000? Training for him? Re-education? Counseling? And I think that it begs the question that if, and by the way, there are several examples, not just of people mocking the Jewish community, not just of people saying things about the Jewish community that they find offensive, but of course of the Black community, said all the time, things that are said all the time in hatred, movies that have played for years that are biased, racist, disgusting, inaccurate. And where are these people that are so in their feelings now? Why do they not stick up or defend? The Black community when these things are done? I could give examples. I could say Ted Danson. I could say Don Imus. I can say Michael Richards. They have, that's me being minimal. They have said and done all kinds of things. And they've still gotten paid. They've still gone into retirement pretty set. I don't think that they had to be re-educated. If I'm misunderstood, you can correct me. The question is that a man like Kyrie Irving, who is wealthy, maybe he's not as wealthy as Jeff Bezos, who is the distributor of the movie that the Jewish community finds so offensive. So he, I guess, just typed out he tweeted the link, but he had no part in writing the book. He had no part in directing the movie. Kyrie Irving. He didn't write the book. He didn't write the movie. He didn't direct the movie. And he's not in charge of distribution. But he is being punished. Though, from appearances, he is a good man, a great basketball player. I don't follow the game. And he apologized. And he has money, a lot of money. Money that a lot of those men that I mentioned earlier also had. So then the question is, why do his attributes not save him in the way that they save other celebrities, other entertainers, other people with a lot of money? Why does his money and his innocence get him this punishment? And people with the same their smear campaigns and their defamation and their ideas of restitution for themselves, but not for others. Why does his money not operate, in his good standing, not operate the same way as theirs? It all comes back to the story at the beginning. Is that when someone is in power, but they act as if they're not, the stuff that you have, the truth you have, the things that you want to learn about, the things that you want to share with others, the things that you want to see, that you want to be enthusiastic about, you can't exercise that freedom without permission. And then you're not supposed to say that you're powerless, because it makes the powerful really angry. It rips the curtain. And through that action of telling your truth, you've become powerful. And with powerful people, there cannot be two powerful people. There is one, and one is over the other one that was just starting. He is an example. He is an example. He's being made into an example. Not to stand up. Get down and stay down. Stay down. Anyway, what happened to that guy? The stepdad. Um, when I had my own daughter, I was 20 years old. I had a son 10 years later after I realized how hard it was to raise children. But anyway, when I was 19, my brother died. One of my brothers that grew up in a boys' home after my birth mom gave us up. I was the only one that got adopted. There were my two brothers that lived in a boys' home. She never went back to go get them. When he died, I was 19 and he was 20. I felt it was right to find her, although I had no desire before then to look for her. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger, not that she gave me up, not just that, but why she did what she did. And then I was most angry by the lie. Yeah. There's always a story, and it's the one that sounds the best. Sometimes for the person that did the worst to somebody else. So she told this story. So, about why she gave us up, although it wasn't the reason why. Anyway, when my brother died, I felt sorry for her, because if she was close to any of us, it was him. I found her. I looked her up. It didn't go well over the phone. And then I told her I would visit her the next day. Anyway, we tried to work on a relationship. And she told me she was divorced. And then not half a year later, I was going to a pizza place one day. I ordered some pizza, and this man comes out to the car I'm in. I'm sitting there with my daughter, and I'm waiting for my fiance to finish talking to somebody that he saw on the street someplace. And this man starts walking towards me, and my heart starts beating. Just, it's going to come out of my chest. In my mind, I said, oh my gosh, that's him. It can't be that's him, The last time I saw him was when he was throwing me against the wall. And the next day I went to the foster home and I never came back. And then my mom signed the termination papers. But anyway, he comes with these two pizzas and he hands them to me. He puts them in my hands. And I say his name. And then he got this look on his face. I looked much different because I used to have really, really, really long hair. And when I turned 20, I cut it all off. Plus, he hadn't seen me since I was 8. But anyway, he still looked exactly the same. He was just bloated. He looked like he had some hard living. But anyway, I said his name. And then he keeps looking at my face. And I say my name. I said, it's Anna. And then his eyes got big. They dilated. And then he just starts talking to me about everything that my mother did to him. Oh, she got the money. She took our son, that would be my stepbrother, that I don't even know. She did all this stuff to me. Oh, he was trying to recruit me. He was trying to recruit me into sympathizing with his plight. And I just stood there. I said, wow, all these years later, you don't think about what you do to others. You don't think about what you did to me. If I turned against my mother, it would not be because you, as an abusive person, want to rally up support. It would be for the things that she did wrong. Anyway, the next day, I tried to end that conversation quickly. He was so full of shit. I wanted to throw up on him. Got in the car, drove away. The next day, I think my husband or my fiance wanted another pizza. I said, oh gosh, I don't want to go back to that place. I don't even want to start up a relationship with that guy. I mean, he's crazy. He's out to lunch. He was on his power trip then, and he's on a power trip now with the story and the history. But, we ordered another pizza, and he said he would go pick it up, my fiance. I didn't have to pick it up. I said, okay, good. And then he made some joke to the guy who owned the pizza place. He said something like, hey, I want this pizza. I want these toppings. Do we get a discount because of such and such? We're related. I was in the background telling him to shut up. I'm not related to that man. It's crazy. Can't stand him, right? And then the owner says, he died. You guys, he literally died that night after he ran into me. I'm not saying I'm the cause of his death. I hope I'm not. But he said his little story. He told his lies all the way to the end. And he went home, and they say that night he had a heart attack. And that's how I found out, by calling a pizza shop. It came full circle. It taught me that when people want power, some of them, they want it forever. Until the minute they die. And they're unapologetic about it. And nothing that you have, nothing that you say, and nothing that you do will be able to change that.